Hello and welcome everyone. Today we will talk about the concept of inflation and how it affects your lives directly or indirectly. Because whether you know this or not, but it is the most common and crucial factor that plays an important role in your financial health. That's why it is essential to understand before you caught yourself in any financial misery. Now it's important to understand how inflation works as well as the effects it could have on your financial planning. Inflation is often referred to as a measure of the increase in the price of goods and services over time. Inflation not only affects the cost of living, things such as transport, electricity, and food, but it can also impact interest rates on saving accounts, the performance of companies, and in turn, share prices. As measures of inflation rise, this reflects a reduction in the purchasing power of your money. In other words, this impacts your buying power as you're now able to buy less with your money. The most well known indicator of inflation is the Consumer Price Index, which measures the percentage change in the price of a basket of goods and services consumed by households. When it comes to the cost of living, a rising inflation measure means it has become more expensive to maintain our previous lifestyle. If your income has not increased over the measured period by at least the rate of inflation, then your buying power will have fallen as the cost of goods and services will have increased over that time. Supply and demand also play an important role in inflation. Prices tend to rise when demand for a good or service rises or supply for that same good or services falls. Many factors affect supply and demand nationally and internationally, including cost of goods and labor, taxes on income and goods, and the availability of loans. Inflation does not just affect our everyday expenses but could also impact our savings, investments, and pensions. But it does not affect everything the same way. For example, gas prices could double while your home loses value. That's what happened during the financial crisis of 2008. Home prices deflated, falling nearly 20%. Meanwhile, inflation occurred in oil prices. They reached an all-time high of $128 a barrel in July 2008. Since oil prices influenced gas prices, the cost of gas rose above $4 a gallon in some parts of the United States. Driving to work became even more expensive and even stressful at a time when many new workers were worried about keeping their jobs. Gas prices rose to similar levels, breaching the $4 a gallon mark in some parts of the country in October 2021. The US economy, which was recovering from the pandemic related slowdown, saw the consumer price index increase to 6.2%, its highest level since November 1990. Sometimes inflation is good for the economy when it's mild. Inflation has a healthy side effect. When people start to expect inflation, they spend now rather than later because they know prices will be higher in the future. Consumer spending drives economic growth. In fact, the Federal Reserve sets an inflation target. It wants a healthy core inflation rate of 2%, which takes out the effect of food and energy prices. The central bank wants a little inflation, which also leads consumers to believe prices will continue rising. Given that inflation is inevitable, you can still do something to mitigate the effects of the rising prices of goods and services. Here are some of the tips you can consider. You can manage inflation by having a strategic plan when it comes to handling your finances. List down your current and future expenses. Make a budget that will accommodate the expenses you have on your list and stick to your budget. By doing this, you can avoid overspending and impulse buying. Look for ways to supplement your income. The more income streams you have, the more secure you are about having enough funds to cover your expenses. You may want to try getting part-time jobs or online-based work. Having your own business on the sideline is also an option to increase your cash flow. You can also revisit your budget plan and distinguish whether an expense is for a need or a want. Depending on your available resources, find the right balance between your wants and needs. If you think you have a tight budget, prioritize your needs. a little discipline and effort to practice frugality would help. Now, if you have savings or extra disposable income, you may consider investing in financial vehicles that could give you returns higher than the inflation rate. It is best to talk to a financial advisor to determine investment options that best suit your financial capacity and risk profile. Now, if you know any other tips which might reduce the risk to your financial portfolio, then don't hesitate to mention in the comments. See you till next time.